Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another astounding, thrilling, inimitable episode of the next section of the next chapter of the fabulous, fantastical reading cow from another world with bedtime stories thing that this is for your edification. And today we're going to learn about the fantastical, mysterious, wonderful concept of intersubjectivity. Take it away, cow. Reading from another world. Intersubjectivity, a term coined by social scientists as a shorthand description for a variety of human interactions. For example, social psychologist Alice Gillespie and Flora Cornish list at least 6 definitions of intersubjectivity, and other disciplines have additional definitions. So you need to make your supplications for the possible ramifications of the explanations. Gotta be careful, folks. Intersubjectivity has been used in social science to refer to agreement. There is intersubjectivity between people if they agree on a given set of meanings or a definition of the situation. Similarly, Thomas Schiff defines intersubjectivity as the sharing of subjective states by 2 or more individuals. Intersubjectivity has also been used to refer to the common sense shared meanings constructed by people in their interactions with each other and used as an everyday resource to interpret the meaning of elements of social and cultural life. If people share common sense, then they share a definition of the situation. Or so they think. Maybe. I don't think that. The term has also been used to refer to shared or partially shared divergences of meaning. Self presentation, lying, practical jokes, and social emotions, for example, all entail not a shared definition of the situation, but partially shared divergences of meaning. Someone who is telling a lie is engaged in an intersubjective act because they are working with 2 different definitions of the situation. Lying is thus genuinely intersubjective in the sense of operating between 2 subjective definitions of reality. Intersubjectivity can also be understood as the process of so-called psychological energy moving between 2 or more subjects. In a room where someone is lying on their deathbed, for example, the room can appear enveloped in a shroud of gloom for people interacting with the dying person. The psychological weight of one subject comes to bear on the minds of the others depending on how they react to it, thereby creating an intersubjective experience that without multiple consciousnesses interacting with each other would be otherwise strictly solitary. Love is a prime example of intersubjectivity that implies a shared feeling of care and affection among others. Among the early authors who explored this conception in psychoanalysis in an explicit or implicit way were Heinz Kohut, Robert Stolorow, George E. Atwood, Jessica Benjamin in the United States, and Silvia Montefoschi in Italy. Psychoanalyst Jessica Benjamin, in The Bonds of Love, writes the concept of intersubjectivity has its origins in the social theory of Jürgen Habermas, 1970, who used the expression the intersubjectivity of mutual understanding to designate an individual capacity in a social domain. Philosophy. Contemporarily, intersubjectivity is a major topic in both the analytic and the continental traditions of philosophy. Intersubjectivity is considered crucial not only to the relational level, but also at the epistemological and even metaphysical levels. Bet you didn't know that. For example, intersubjectivity is postulated as playing a role in establishing the truth of propositions and constituting the so-called objectivity of objects. A central concern in consciousness studies of the past 50 years is the so-called problem of other minds, which asks how we can justify our belief that people have minds much like our own and predict others' mind states and behavior, as our experience shows we often can. I hate it when people predict what I'm thinking. You know what I'm thinking right now? Aha! I was thinking about a blue fish with dark spots swimming around in the water. Ha! Gotcha. Contemporary philosophical theories of intersubjectivity need to address the problem of other minds. In the debate between cognitive individualism and cognitive universalism, some aspects of thinking are neither solely personal nor fully universal. Cognitive sociology proponents argue for intersubjectivity, an intermediate perspective of social cognition that provides a balanced view between personal and universal views of our social cognition. This approach suggests that instead of being individual or universal thinkers, human beings subscribe to thought communities, communities of differing beliefs. Thought community examples include churches, professions, scientific beliefs, generations, nations, and political movements. This perspective explains why each individual thinks differently from another. Individualism. Person A may choose to adhere to expiry dates on foods, but person B may believe that expiry dates are only guidelines and it is still safe to eat the food days past the expiry date. But not all human beings think the same way. Universalism. There you have it. Intersubjectivity argues that each thought community shares social experiences that are different from the social experiences of other thought communities, creating differing beliefs among people who subscribe to different thought communities. These experiences transcend our subjectivity, which explains why they can be shared by the entire thought community. Proponents of intersubjectivity support the view that individual beliefs are often the result of thought community beliefs, not just personal experiences or universal and objective human beliefs. Beliefs are recast in terms of standards which are set by thought communities. Phenomenology, folks. Edmund Husserl, the founder of phenomenology, recognized the importance of intersubjectivity and wrote extensively on the topic. In volumes 13 to 15 of the Husserliana in English. His best known text on intersubjectivity is the Cartesian Meditations. It is this text that features solely in the Husserl Reader entitled The Essential Husserl. Although Husserlian phenomenology is often charged with methodological solipsism, put that in your pipe and smoke it, folks. In the fifth Cartesian meditation, Husserl attempts to grapple with the problem of intersubjectivity and puts forward his theory of transcendental monadological intersubjectivity. Bet you didn't know that. Husserl's student, Edith Stein, extended intersubjectivity's basis in empathy in her 1917 doctoral dissertation on the problem of empathy, zum Problem der Einfühlung. Intersubjectivity also helps to constitute objectivity. And the experience of the world is available not only to yourself but also to the other. There is a bridge between the personal and the shared, the self and the others. Psychology. Discussions and theories of intersubjectivity are prominent and of importance in contemporary psychology, theory of mind, and consciousness studies. Three major contemporary theories of intersubjectivity are theory, simulation theory, and interaction theory. Shannon Spalding, assistant professor of philosophy at Oklahoma State University, writes, theorists argue that we explain and predict behavior by employing folk psychological theories about how mental states inform behavior. With our folk psychological theories, we infer from a target's behavior what his or her mental states probably are. People try that with the cow, but they often fail. Uh, I'm like, you thought you could do that with me, but you're so wrong. You don't know that I was thinking about an ointment that if you rubbed it on your forehead, you would turn into an owl. But instead, you got the wrong ointment and you rubbed it on your forehead and you turned into a donkey. That's actually what the cow was thinking just then. That was my mental state, ladies and gentlemen, and you didn't know what it was. You might have guessed wrongly. And from these inferences, plus the psychological principles in the theory connecting mental states to behavior, we predict the target's behavior. I'm going to watch out for the wrong ointment. That's definitely what's in my mind. If you think I'm going to grab that ass ointment, no, it's not going to be me. I'm careful about that. Carruthers and Smith, 1996, Davies and Stone, 1995A, Gopnik and Wellman, 1992, Nichols and Stick, 2003. Simulation theorists, on the other hand, claim that we explain and predict others' behavior by using our own minds as a model and putting ourselves in another's shoes. That is, by imagining what our mental states would be and how we would behave if we were in another situation, which I don't do. Because you just don't know, folks. You don't. More specifically, we simulate what the other mental states could have been to cause the observed behavior. Then use the simulated mental states, pretend beliefs, and pretend desires as input, running them through our own decision making mechanism. We then take the resulting conclusion and attribute it to the other person. Recently, authors like Vittorio Galeazzi have proposed a theory of embodied simulation that refers to neuroscientific research on mirror neurons and phenomenological research. Spalding notes that this debate has stalled in the past few years with progress limited to articulating various hybrid simulation theories. Theory accounts to resolve this impasse. Authors like Sean Gallagher put forward interaction theory. Gallagher writes that an important shift is taking place in social cognition research, away from a focus on the individual mind and toward participatory aspects of social understanding. Interaction theory is put forward to galvanize the interactive turn and explanations of intersubjectivity. Gallagher defines an interaction as two or more autonomous agents engaged in co-regulated coupling behavior. For example, when walking a dog, both the owner's behavior is regulated by the dog stopping and sniffing, and the dog's behavior is regulated by the lead and the owner's commands. Ergo, walking the dog is an example of an interactive process. That's happened to me. For Gallagher, interaction and direct perception constitute what he terms primary or basic intersubjectivity. Studies of dialogue and dialogism reveal how language is deeply intersubjective. When we speak, we always address our interlocutors, taking their perspective and orienting to what we think they think, or more often don't think. Within this tradition of research, it has been argued that the structure of individual signs and symbols, the basis of language, is intersubjective and that the psychological process of self-reflection entails intersubjectivity. Recent research on mirror neurons provides evidence for the deeply intersubjective basis of human psychology, and arguably much of the literature on empathy and theory of mind relates directly to intersubjectivity. In child development, Colwyn Trevarthen has applied intersubjectivity to the very rapid cultural development of newborn infants. Research suggests that as babies, humans are biologically wired to coordinate their actions with others. This ability to coordinate and sync with others facilitates cognitive and emotional learning through social interaction. Additionally, the most socially productive relationship between children and adults is bidirectional, where both parties actively define a shared culture. The bidirectional aspect lets the active parties organize the relationship how they see fit. What they see as important receives the most focus. Emphasis is placed on the idea that children are actively involved in how they learn using intersubjectivity across cultures. The ways intersubjectivity occurs varies across cultures. In certain indigenous American communities, nonverbal communication is so prevalent that intersubjectivity may occur regularly amongst all members of the community, in part perhaps due to a joint cultural understanding and a history of shared endeavors. This joint cultural understanding may develop in small indigenous American communities where children have grown up embedded in their community's values, expectations, and livelihoods, learning through participation with adults rather than through intent verbal instruction, working in cohesion with one another in shared endeavors on a daily basis. Having grown up within this context may have led members of this community to have what is described by some as a blending of agendas. That's what we need today, a blending of agendas, or by others as a dovetailing of motives. That would be a good one too. If community or family members have the same general goals in mind, they may thus act cohesively, cohesively, for Christ, for Lord, please help me get some cohesion within an overlapping state of mind, whether persons are in each other's presence or merely within the same community. This blending of agendas or dovetailing of motives enables intersubjectivity to occur within these shared endeavors. The cultural value of respeto may also contribute to intersubjectivity in some communities. Unlike the English definition of respect, respeto refers loosely to mutual considerations for others' activities, needs, wants, etc. You get the message, folks? Similar to putting yourself in one's shoes, the prevalence of respeto in certain indigenous American communities in Mexico and South America may promote intersubjectivity as persons act in accordance with one another within consideration for the community or the individual's current needs or state of mind. Please help. God help me, the cow. I need help. Shared reference during an activity facilitates learning. Adults either teach by doing the task with children or directing attention toward experts. Children that had to ask questions in regard to how to perform a task were scolded for not learning by another's example, as though they were ignoring the available resources to learn a task, as seen in Tsutujil, Maya parents who scolded questioning children with and asking if they have you got eyes for crying out loud, have you got eyes? Ah, poor kids. I guess that'll teach them that they should pay attention because if they don't, they're going to miss a lot. And with that, we conclude the next thrilling episode in the episodic chapter of the fabulous, fantastical, astounding, and amazing Reading Cow from Another World with bedtime stories to help you go to sleep and be calm and not cry in the crib. And until next time, folks, goodbye.